Vietnam, Vietnamese Vietnam, is the official name of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, a state located on the east coast of the Indochina Peninsula. Vietnam is bordered by the People's Republic of China to the north, Laos and Cambodia to the west, and the South China Sea to the south and east. Hanoi is the capital of Vietnam. Ho Chi Minh City is the largest city. Vietnam is geographically narrow and long. Its topography is varied. Vietnam is mountainous in the north and central part. The northern highlands gradually sloped and merged with the wide, riverine coastal plains to the east. The plains are heavily cultivated, and over the centuries the Vietnamese have built many dams and cut canals on them to provide irrigation and flood control. Central Vietnam is the narrowest part of the country. Here the mountains are very close to the sea. In some places they are very close to the sea. South Vietnam is largely composed of the Mekong River basin. This plain is fertile. There is a lot of agriculture here and mainly paddy is produced. Vietnam developed into an agrarian society. Most of the people here still live in villages. As of 2003, the city has a population of 26%. However, the urban population is growing rapidly, resulting in rapid growth in Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi, and other areas. There are 53 different ethnic and linguistic groups living in Vietnam. However, the people of Vietnam or Vietnamese people are the majority. The Vietnamese people originally lived in the valley of the Red River. The river originates in southern China, flows through northern Vietnam, and flows into the Gulf of Tonkin. China occupied the territory in the 2nd century BC. In 939, the Vietnamese established independence. Over the next 1,000 years, Vietnam became a dynamic civilization in Southeast Asia and spread south along the coast. France invaded Vietnam in the late 19th century. The French divided the country into 3 regions and annexed the territories to Cambodia and Laos to form the Indochina Union or French Indochina. The French exploited Vietnam for their own benefit. After World War II, 1939 to 1945, anti-colonial forces in Vietnam declared a revolt against French rule, led by the Communist Party. In 1954, Vietnamese troops defeated French troops at Dien Bien Phu. Vietnam was then temporarily divided into 2 regions, North and South. A communist government in North Vietnam and anti-communist rule in South Vietnam. Over the next 20 years, a movement to unify Vietnam began, led by North Vietnam, and the South Vietnamese government, with the help of the United States, tried to thwart it. The United States withdrew its troops in 1963, and 2 years later, South Vietnam was annexed by the communists. In 1962, the 2 Vietnams merged to form a communist state, with Hanoi as its capital. Although Vietnam is still under communist rule, at present, various aspects of market economy are being implemented for the purpose of economic development. History: Chinese domination and resistance. The Vietnamese nation was born through hundreds of years of war. The area was occupied by the Qin dynasty of China in 221 BC. After the fall of the Qin dynasty in 210 BC, their southern general, Chow Thuo, known as Trieu Da in Vietnam, formed a new kingdom called Viet, covering some of the southern part of the empire. Later more areas of present-day Vietnam were included in this state. In 111 BC, Vietnam was conquered by the Chinese Han dynasty. The Vietnamese resistance against Chinese domination continued sporadically. Finally, under the leadership of Go Quin, they were able to oust the Chinese in 939 AD. The new dynasty begins. However, it soon broke down. Shortly after the Civil War, the Li dynasty was established in 1010. The name of the state is Dai Viet. The rule of Tran dynasty started from 1225. All this time they had to fight with the kings of China. In the 13th century, the Mongols occupied China and started the Yuan dynasty. They also invaded Vietnam, but without success. Occupying the southern state of Champa, meanwhile, further enlarged the state of Vietnam. In 1406, the Chinese Ming dynasty occupied Vietnam. But within 2 decades, the Vietnamese regained independence. The reign of the Le dynasty began. It ruled for about 3 centuries. However, in the 17th century, the state was administratively divided into 2 parts. This facilitates the expansion of European power. Colonies of France has been trying to occupy Vietnam since the occupation of Indochina in 180 AD. For this they have to wait for 30 years during the French rule. Around 1900, Vietnam was divided into Tonkin in the north, Annam in the central and Cochin China in the south. Then again, the Vietnamese began to organize in 1929. A number of Marxist-Leninist parties emerged in Vietnam. The following year, they merged under the name of the Indochina Communist Party, led by Ho Chi Minh. The team later split into 3 groups, working separately in Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. The party was known in Vietnam as the Workers' Party until 1968, when it was renamed the Communist Party of Vietnam, CPV. During World War II, Vietnamese communists cooperated with the Allies to resist the Japanese. In 1941, Ho Chi Minh founded the Viet Minh or Independence League. Note that Vietnam and Viet Minh mean different things. After Japan's defeat in World War II, Viet Minh became very popular in the country. They had a strong army. In August 1945, a mass uprising took place in Vietnam 2 weeks later. Rebels occupying Hanoi proclaimed Vietnam's Declaration of Independence. They also declared Vietnam a republic. King Bao Dai was forced to resign. He was offered the position of advisor to the new regime in March 1948. France recognized the Vietnamese government and recognized Vietnam as a free country under the French Union. In June, France declared former King Bao Dai the head of state. Viet Minh then started guerrilla warfare after a long 9-year war. Viet Minh defeated French forces at the Dien Bien Phu military base in 1954 and was finally victorious. Vietnam War in 1980, Democrats, Socialists and Marxists united in the National Liberation Front, NLF, led by lawyer Nguyen Hu Tu. At that time, the Second Resistance War against Saigon's military government and the United States began. The first troops and advisors were sent to Saigon by the United States in 1989. There were 560,000 American troops in Saigon. More bombs were dropped in Vietnam than in World War II. The United States also dropped experimental chemical bombs there. Ho Chi Minh died in 1989 in the 15-year war. America spent $150 billion and 70% of villages in northern Vietnam were reduced to rubble, but in the end, America was defeated in this war. The American troops had to leave Vietnam in a hurry. In April 1975, the NLF, Vietcong, took control of Saigon. It was renamed Ho Chi Minh City after their late leader on July 2, 1968. The whole region was reunited under the name Socialist Republic of Vietnam. Vietnam. After the unification, peace did not last long in Vietnam. In January 1969, they became embroiled in a war with Pol Pot's Cambodian government when the pro-Vietnamese Hang Samrin seized power in Cambodia by ousting Pol Pot. China invaded northern Vietnam to save the Chinese people from the Vietnamese campaign. In 1981, President Ronald Reagan blocked the United Nations from providing aid to Vietnam. After 1975, Hanoi released some political prisoners. At the same time, every effort is being made to normalize relations with ASEAN, and the United States CPV General Secretary Lee Duan died in 1986. Vietnam Congress nominates Nguyen Van Linh as new secretary. As the political culture of Europe began to change in the 1980s, so did Vietnam. As a result, there is a growing demand for a multi-party parliamentary system in the country. Non-communist candidates also took part in the 1989 national elections. In the same year, Britain deported thousands of Vietnamese refugees who had taken refuge in Hong Kong. In 1991, the CPV reiterated its firm commitment to socialism. In the same year, Du Muyoy became the new general secretary of the CPV. Even after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the CPV did its utmost to maintain the one-party system. However, it was decided to make some changes in the overall political and economic system, including conditional private enterprise and foreign investment. Vietnam's ongoing stalemate with Cambodia was resolved in October 1991 with the signing of an agreement in Paris under the auspices of the United Nations. The agreement also serves as a first step towards normalizing Vietnam's relations with China. In November, Britain repatriated 74,000 Vietnamese refugees to camps in Hong Kong. The new constitution of 1992 also allowed independent candidates to stand for election. Even then, 90% of the candidates in the July elections were CPV members. In September, General Lee Duc-un, an aide to Prime Minister Vladimir Putin, took over the presidency. In 1992, due to privatization and freedom of foreign investment, Vietnam's GDP growth jumped to 7.3%. At that time, due to the production of a lot of paddy, the southern part of the country began to benefit tremendously. Ho Chi Minh City, with a population of 5 million, has become the economic capital of the country, setting a new precedent for the northern part of the country. In the mid-1990s, with the funding of the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank, much of Vietnam's telecommunications, communications, and electrical sectors were reformed. Vietnam's diplomatic relations with the United States were re-established in 1995. In September 1998, Tran Doc Luong became the president of Vietnam. Phan Van Khai was elected prime minister in December. The top three positions in the CPV were changed. The April 1997 drought completely destroyed 6,000 hectares of Vietnam's 270,000 hectares of tea plantations. This has hit the country's export sector hard. Besides, due to various regional problems, the country's economy is in a slump. GDP growth has come down from 7.8% to 7.1%. The amount of foreign investment also decreased by 60% in September. Vietnam became a full member of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, APEC. In December 1997, after 8 years of negotiations, Vietnam signed a border agreement with China. Extreme levels of flood danger were announced in 1999 in Vietnam due to typhoons and heavy rains. Environmental groups say the country's deforestation is the main reason. At that time, corruption was rampant in Vietnam. At one stage, allegations of corruption were also leveled against three top CPV officials. The situation escalated to such an extent that in 1999 the CPV demanded the resignation of the country's deputy prime minister No Wan Loc. In 2000, the CPV Politburo acknowledged that members of the party were involved in various forms of corruption. And the party officials are equally responsible for this. In order to reduce corruption, autonomous monitoring committees have been set up and party leaders have been required to provide details of their assets. During a visit to Vietnam in November 2000, President Bill Clinton promised to help destroy unexploded ordnance in the country during the Vietnam War. In April 2001, Nong Doc Man was nominated as the new General Secretary of the CPV. In May 2002, Russia withdrew its naval base from Cam Ranh Bay. In July, Tran Doc Luong was re-elected president and Phan Van Khai was re-elected prime minister. In June 2003, the top 6 criminals in Ho Chi Minh City were sentenced to death, and in 2004 there was a terrible outbreak of bird flu in the country. The virus has killed 16 people in the country. Politics. Vietnam is a one-party constitutional republic ruled by the Communist Party. The country gained independence on September 2, 1945. The last constitution of the country was enacted on the 15th of April 1992. The system of government in Vietnam consists of 3 divisions: